The accepted historical model resembles an unspoken agreement where scholars prefer to ignore inconvenient facts. Yet material evidence cannot be refuted. There are places on our planet whose very existence challenges the theory of primitive ancient civilizations. These are not just mysteries, they are true evidence. They serve as proof that we inhabit the ruins of something truly grand. Humanity, in this sense, is like people who woke up with amnesia in a strange palace and are convinced they built it themselves from clay and branches. But 5 specific locations on the map silently shatter this self-assurance, hinting at a terrifying truth. We are not the first inhabitants of this world, and likely not the last. In 1994, excavations initiated by German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt on a Turkish hill, which locals called Potbelly Hill, led to a discovery that changed historical perspectives. Beneath layers of soil lay a massive temple complex composed of stone circles. Its T-shaped pillars, weighing up to 50 tons, were adorned with intricate carvings of animal figures. However, the true shock was not the architecture itself, but the dating of the structure. Radiocarbon analysis determined that Göbekli Tepe is 12,000 years old, corresponding to the end of the last ice age. During that era, according to official science, humans were merely primitive hunter-gatherers, possessing no knowledge of agriculture, pottery, or the wheel. It's impossible to explain how a handful of nomads could have organized such a massive construction project, requiring thousands of laborers, sophisticated logistics, and food supplies. This fact directly points to the existence of an advanced civilization in those distant times. However, the main mystery of this site lies elsewhere. The Göbekli Tepe complex was not abandoned or destroyed by natural forces. 8,000 years ago, it was deliberately buried under earth. Someone went to colossal efforts to hide it from the world. The question arises, what was it? An attempt to preserve valuable knowledge for future generations? Or an effort to conceal something dangerous? Carved onto the temple's pillars are images of vultures, snakes, and scorpions, commonly accepted symbols of death and the underworld. This suggests that Göbekli Tepe might have served not as a sanctuary, but as a place of confinement or a kind of seal, restraining some evil. And it's entirely possible that by breaking this seal, modern humans made a grave mistake. Stories like these, which challenge official science, regularly appear on this channel, and subscribing will help ensure you don't miss the most interesting ones. In the lands of modern-day Pakistan, in the Indus River Valley, lie the ominous ruins of an ancient city whose name means Mound of the Dead, Mohenjo-Daro. Discovered in 1922 by Indian archaeologist Rakaldas Das Banerjee, this city revealed to the world an example of an incredibly advanced metropolis. 4.5 millennia ago, its inhabitants utilized a perfect sewage system, surpassing many European counterparts of the 19th century, lived in 2-story brick houses with baths, and walked on wide, straight streets. But this thriving center of civilization did not gradually fade away. Its life ended instantly. The most horrifying evidence of this tragedy was found directly in the streets and dwellings. Archaeologists discovered 44 skeletons in unnatural poses, as if death caught people in the midst of their daily activities. On one street, the remains of a family, father, mother, and child, were found, holding hands in their final moments. Their bodies were never buried. They remained lying there, covered by sand and dust for millennia. Analysis of the remains shocked scientists. Radiation levels in the bones were 50 times higher than normal. In some samples, these readings were comparable to data obtained from examining victims of the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This couldn't have been natural background radiation from the soil. It indicated the aftermath of a powerful, instantaneous energy release. The nature of the destruction also pointed to an explosion. Buildings in the city center were significantly more damaged than those on the periphery. But the key evidence literally lies on the ground: black, vitrified stones. Archaeologists discovered thousands of fragments of pottery and bricks fused into a hard, glassy mass. This process, known as vitrification, requires temperatures exceeding 1,500 degrees Celsius. A normal fire, even the most intense, cannot produce temperatures above 800 degrees. Such heat arises only in the maw of a volcano or at the epicenter of a nuclear explosion. However, there are no volcanoes in the Indus Valley, nor have there ever been. Perhaps the key to solving this mystery lies in the ancient Indian epic, the Mahabharata. Texts created thousands of years ago contain a surprisingly accurate description of weapons used by gods in their battles. The epic speaks of a projectile whose radiance was like 10,000 suns. Its use caused cataclysms, river waters boiled, cooking fish, trees ignited like matches, ash rained down from the sky. The texts even mention symptoms of radiation sickness in those who survived. People lost their nails and hair, their skin turned white, and food became poisonous. The ancient source describes a nuclear explosion and its consequences with detail worthy of a military report. Who could have used weapons of mass destruction 4,000 years ago? It is possible that Mohenjo-Daro is a monument to that very war, a warning etched in stone for future generations. In 1963, a resident of Turkey's Cappadocia province experienced a common household nuisance. His chickens began to disappear one by one. The birds were hiding in a small crack in the cellar wall, from which they never returned. The homeowner, intending to seal the wall, struck it with a heavy sledgehammer. However, the stone masonry collapsed, revealing a dark tunnel that led deep underground. Thus, entirely by accident, Derinkuyu was discovered, the largest and most complex underground city on the planet. Archaeologists have officially unearthed 8 levels, descending 85 meters, comparable to the height of a 30-story building. Meanwhile, ground-penetrating radar data indicates that this is far from its full extent. According to scientists' estimates, over 20,000 people could have lived here simultaneously, along with livestock and food supplies, transforming this place into a fully autonomous metropolis capable of existing for years without contact with the surface. Derinkuyu's incredibly well-designed ventilation system is considered its primary engineering marvel. 15,000 ventilation shafts permeate the city from the upper to the lower levels, designed so flawlessly that the air remains clean even at the greatest depths. These same shafts also served as wells, reaching groundwater and providing residents with drinking water. The city revealed rooms for schools, chapels, and presses for making wine and oil, indicating the inhabitants' plans for a long-term stay. However, the key question that troubles historians is exactly whom the ancient inhabitants were hiding from with such fanatical persistence. Passages between floors are blocked by massive half-ton circular stone doors that are impossible to move from the outside. Narrow corridors forced any adversary to move one by one and in a crouched position. The decision to go underground, into eternal darkness and dampness, makes sense only in one scenario: if an enemy attacks from the air and the planet's surface becomes uninhabitable. Ancient Zoroastrian texts contain a story of a god commanding a king to build an underground refuge from celestial fire and a terrible winter. It's possible that Derinkuyu was a fallout shelter in the same global war that erased Mohenjo-Daro from the face of the Earth. In 1986, diver Kihachiro Aratake was exploring off the coast of the Japanese island of Yonaguni. At a depth of 25 meters, he saw something that took his breath away. From the blue depths of the sea emerged a gigantic rock. But it was not merely a rock, it was a wall. Swimming closer, Aratake discerned perfectly even stone steps, right angles, terraces, and geometrically precise platforms. All of it resembled a massive stepped pyramid. The diver realized he was looking at the ruins of a city whose existence no one had suspected. The central structure, now known as the Yonaguni Monument, boasts colossal dimensions: 150 meters long, 40 meters wide, and 27 meters high. And it is entirely carved from a single sandstone bedrock. Such discoveries force us to rethink our past, and if you're equally fascinated by these mysteries, we encourage you to subscribe to our channel to explore the unknown together. As soon as news of the discovery reached the scientific community, the world split into 2 camps. Skeptical geologists claimed it was merely a whimsical natural formation. However, Professor Masaki Kimura, a marine geologist, dedicated over 15 years to researching this site. He made hundreds of dives and discovered details that nature cannot create. Holes for mounting pillars, a drainage trench, a triangular pool, and 15-meter-high stone gates constructed from perfectly fitted blocks. But the main problem with Yonaguni is its dating. This entire area submerged at the end of the last ice age, approximately 10,000 years ago. Official historical science insists that during that era, people in Japan lived in pit dwellings and wore animal skins. If Yonaguni is a man-made city, then our entire chronology is incorrect. This means that a highly advanced civilization existed on Earth, possessing megalithic processing technology 5,000 years before the construction of the first Egyptian pyramids. Proponents of alternative historical views call this place part of the legendary continent of Mu. Geologists, however, indicate that the submergence was not gradual. Most likely, the catastrophe unfolded instantly. A powerful earthquake followed by a tsunami hundreds of meters high simply swept the civilization into the ocean. Professor Kimura states that he discovered not only structures but also tablets with unknown writing on the seabed. If this is true and we can decipher them, then the dead, who have kept silent for 10 millennia, will speak. The Yonaguni Monument is an underwater graveyard that serves as a reminder that any empire, even the greatest, can cease to exist in a single day. In the mountains of Laos, on the Xiangquang Plateau, lies a place that sends shivers down the spines of even seasoned travelers. This is the Plain of Jars. Imagine a vast, desolate field where thousands of gigantic stone vessels are scattered, like the toys of ancient gods. In total, archaeologists have found over 90 sites with these mysterious objects. The largest jar stands 3 meters above the ground and weighs 6 tons. The primary mystery is related to their transportation. The jars are made of granite and sandstone, yet the nearest deposits of these rocks are tens of kilometers from the valley. 2.5 millennia ago, when these artifacts were supposedly created according to official accounts, Laos consisted only of impassable jungles and mountain trails. How could ancient people have moved a 6-ton monolith through the mountains? Information about this site became public in the 1930s thanks to the work of French archaeologist Madeleine Colani. She dedicated several years to studying the valley and discovered stone discs near the jars that served as their lids. This fact indicates that the vessels were, in all likelihood, tightly sealed. The question arises, why was this necessary? What valuable or dangerous item needed to be hidden in a 6-ton stone container? Nearby, Kalani also found a cave that was used as a crematorium. This discovery gave rise to the most somber yet most probable hypothesis. The ancient inhabitants of these lands practiced a complex burial ritual. The body of the deceased was placed in a stone vessel, sealed with a massive lid, and left under the scorching sun, where the flesh would decompose. After several years, when only bones remained, they were removed, incinerated in the cave, and the ashes were interred. In essence, it was a massive open-air cemetery. According to local legends, many centuries ago, this territory was ruled by a ruthless giant king. After winning a great battle, he held a grand feast and ordered the creation of gigantic stone jars for rice wine. This myth portrays the jars merely as vessels for a giant's feast. However, the valley also has a more recent, equally sorrowful history. During the Laotian Civil War in the 1960s and 1970s, this area became the site of one of the most massive bombing campaigns of all time. American aircraft dropped over 260 million bombs on it. As a result, many ancient vessels were destroyed. But even more horrifying is that millions of unexploded ordnance remain buried in the ground. They pose a danger even today, which is why visitors are only permitted to move along specially marked and cleared paths. Stories like this, where myths intertwine with tragedies, are often discussed on this channel, so don't forget to subscribe. There are 5 great mysteries that serve as irrefutable evidence of our ignorance. Among them are the Göbekli Tepe Temple, deliberately buried out of fear. The radioactive remains of Mohenjo-Daro, the underground refuge of Derinkuyu, the sunken city of Yonaguni, and, of course, the burial jars of Laos. These stone relics seem to mock human overconfidence. We believe we are the masters of the planet, but in reality, we are merely tiny insects scurrying over the ruins of great palaces. Ancient civilizations possessed greater power, yet they vanished into oblivion. The traces they left behind serve as a reminder that only stone possesses eternity, while human life is fleeting.